work in Africa, South America, the UAE, India, and Europe. When we were looking at creating Yango Education, so we have a plethora of services. So we've got ride-hailing, we've got digital platforms of all types, delivery, logistics, lifestyle. I mean, we've got our own Alexa, right? We call her Yasmina. We've got a bunch of services. But when we were looking at Yango Education, we basically gave this platform that provides data analytics and entry-level STEM to primary school, high school, and those in-betweeners who are trying to pivot from the degree that they've studied to something else. So that's what we do as a company. So we haven't gone down to foundational phase yet, but that's definitely something that we're working towards. So the company is about 5 years old now. We're NASDAQ listed, so we've done quite well in a short space of time. And also when we look at our CSR related projects, these are the things that we've done. Now, it's always nice to hide behind a nice big company. So the question is, me, Zanyue, what have I done? So I've worked quite closely with a company called Edu. We're actually doing a bit of work here in South Africa. So we're working with the Department of Education in Free State. And by we, I'm really the person who's ensuring that this technology gets passed on. So it's focusing at grade 1 to grade 7 students. And what this product actually does is it brings a smartphone into a classroom. So you can have a data-driven approach to what these young students are learning. So it doesn't deviate from the curriculum. It takes the curriculum, it condenses it into content that kids engage with well. We know kids know how to use smartphones and they like colors and they want sound. But as they are learning and as they are having fun, you get to understand what each individual student is doing, how well they're progressing, and if they are struggling in certain areas. So this data-driven approach assists the teachers and I suppose the school at large to have a target or a tailor-made approach to how they are getting educated. So I hope that suffices for now, and that's certainly not where I'll be stopping in my individual capacity, because I do have a passion for Africa, digitalization, and just seeing a brighter future. The second question that I was asked was about Yango in Mozambique. As mentioned, we operate in 14 markets in Africa. Our first entry into Africa was Cote d'Ivoire. And my French is not the best, but it's definitely improving. Now, I had this, like I said, storyteller again. I was sitting in Cote d'Ivoire and I asked myself this question. I don't know, I just want to see how many white people are in this room. Not a lot, okay. So I thought in Sotho, which is not common, but I did think in Sotho. And how many white people would do this? Like how many white people would go to a country that they don't speak the language? They don't. They're the only white person there. So there's just black people. And they're comfortable and they're thriving. And how many young, how many of them are the age, is that there? And I mean, I'll tell you why I thought about this. I caught malaria for the first time in my life. I'm working in West Africa, and my father said, you're very brave, you like things, you're very brave. And I thought to myself, and I answered him, I said, yes, I am, actually, I'm very brave, and I do like things. Because the reason why I asked myself that question is, we've got so acclimatized to seeing white faces, going into black rooms, not speaking the language, having an interpreter, and it's normal, and it's okay, and they're thriving, and no one asks questions. And for me, I really, I saw myself as being a brave girl and doing the right thing, and being able to go back to Bloemfontein, where I'm from, and having that conversation with a young girl or young boy and saying, you can do it too, because I just did it. I didn't die. Okay, well, I kind of did, almost, from malaria. But that's, like I said, a story for another day. But to go back to your question, what we do is we source local talent. We don't work with people who don't speak the language. We want to understand, what does your particular market need? How do we also create employment through our support hubs in the country? So we ensure that, for instance, our country manager in Mozambique is from Mozambique. The operations manager from Mozambique is from Mozambique. They speak the language. They can help us become one. So our viewpoint from Yango's perspective is, yes, we're global, but we also go local. And we're local, but we also go global. So we're really bringing a bit of the world to the markets that we're in, and we're also ensuring that the markets that we're in impact how our HQ runs business, because we see the people, we are one with them. And then I got a question, a really good question, by the way, funny as well. Why did I not mention the brand, the name of the brand? To be honest, I didn't think I was going to tell the story. I tell too many stories, so I don't remember the name. So I don't want to butcher the name. That was it. I don't want to butcher the name, but we can talk after this. When I get home, I'll take your number and I'll actually send you a picture, because it's sitting in my house. I don't want to drink it. I actually took one because I was so impressed. And you're right, actually. Looking back, this is something I should have. I should have actually made a post, which I will. I'll make a post. I'll tag everyone. I'll tag this conference, because it was so profound to see the government working with private sector and pushing something local at that level. So I think I've handled my questions. Thank you.
All good. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think just to pick up on your earlier point around, we need to understand each other to trade with each other as Africans. I want to challenge the institution like TUT, but institutions of higher learning, to really do more to expose the rest of the continent to us, South Africans in general, and vice versa. When I look at the trends, even amongst your Ivy League universities, your Stanford, your Oxford, and all of that, they are actually intentional about having a lot of Asian students and a lot of African students, because they see that as the next big growth. So much so that they have bursaries, they even they recruit them and all of that, because you need to be in the room with the people to understand culture. Many South African universities just do not have enough students from the rest of the country, to understand those markets. And worse, the research output, it's not about the continent. You struggle to find the information around the continent. Recently, consulting for Mastercard Foundation, we're just trying to figure out what are the future of jobs, what industries are growing in Africa. We commissioned a big research house to go and look for secondary data on that, and they came back and said there was nothing. How do you make quality decisions if you don't have data? And we are focused, a lot of South African universities, and I teach there, and I work with them. We've got far too much data about Europe, US, China, and they cannot tell me much about even the size of the cement industry in the DRC. So you cannot facilitate trade until you have business case, and if you don't have business case, you can't have a business case if you don't have the data. I'm just saying that let us start being proactive, because we are so naive that we say we want to take advantage of Africa Continental Free Trade Zone, but we don't know this Africa. So bad that actually someone leaves Johannesburg and Cape Town and say, I'm going to Africa. Where are you living from? But this is the reality of what you see. Specifically to the questions, I think commercialization models for universities in terms of the innovators, how do you start training the entrepreneurs and then help commercialization. I think for me, there's two things I'll mention there. One is the big challenge with commercialization for startups. It's access to customer, access to market. Funding is one big. The second one is who is going to buy for me. I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and I deal with them, and they say, startups, and they say we are overtrained, over-supported, underfunded, and we don't get POs. So even big companies, they will have incubators, and then they say we are doing enterprise development, we're training, and then go back and say, you big company, top 40 listed, who have this incubator, how many POs have you given to these businesses? Not for travel, not for catering, nothing. It's training, get BEE points, nothing. But they need opportunity. And only when they can invoice, they can start to grow. So I think for me, we need to be systematic and deliberate. I actually hosted 30 CEOs and 30 entrepreneurs. And I said, how do we bridge the gap? How do we get big companies to start buying from smaller companies? One of the biggest success stories today for ShopRite, and they know this and they don't mind me saying, is ShopRite 60, their e-commerce platform. That platform was built by a 6-person SME called Zulzi. It was historic. And then they were actually saying that they gave them the business under crisis because of COVID. They had no one else to do it. So it was, they broke all the rules, but there was every reason not to hire an SME to do this. That was the biggest break. Now Zulzi, out of that, moved from 60 to 80 people, but ShopRite has got a platform that has given them 4.5 million customers from an SME. Ordinarily, they would not have given them because they would say, what is your history? What is your payment history? Who owns you? Who are the shareholders? What is your reference? And you don't have all of that. So how do we actually, big business, enable small business? Through a PO. And then actually, the last one, I think universities need to go beyond training. And I know it's hard for South African universities because of the funding model, dependency on subsidy. But in Europe, 40% of what universities have as their own funding comes from their commercialization of the products that they have. They sell their research, they do consulting, they sell and then they invest in these companies themselves. Because if you so much believe in your entrepreneurs and your students, then invest as VCs. So some of these universities, I was in Italy 2 months ago, and I was talking to Bocconi University, their Institute for Entrepreneurship, and you can also check MIT has got the same. The university actually is the one that spends its own venture capital money and buy into these companies. So that when they become big, the university actually have an additional income stream. But more importantly, when there's an exit, the university can make a huge money on the upside. So I think you need to help yourself on that one. The last question I was asked on funding access, how do you actually monetize some of these revenues and the platform? I think there, for me, we have a big discrepancy in this country, and we need to really understand what is the root cause of this. CIFA has publicly said that they don't spend the money that they have been allocated to fund businesses. They send it back. SASME Fund have sent back money because they said they don't have enough entrepreneurs to fund. Right? And then many banks are sitting on a lot of money. Actually, enterprise development money, some of it, the private sector is struggling to fund, and these are grants. And on the other hand, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, rightly so, complaining that they can't get access to funding. What is the discrepancy? What is the gap? Yeah. We have to deal with that. We need to talk openly about that because there's too much money fluctuating in developmental institutions and NGOs and banks to fund entrepreneurs, and there's many entrepreneurs who can't find funding. And what I hear is that the quality of the proposals and the quality of the business ideas is not strong enough for it to be sustainable. Maybe, but then what the entrepreneurs are saying is that the hurdles they have to jump to get funding, that they have to give pay slips while they are not employed, they have to give guarantees, they have to give this, they can't find funding. The two are not talking to each other. And I think in solutions, we need to have that open conversation because you can't have money and people needing money and then it's not being spent.
Yeah. No, I think let's, Mr. Lekula, out of the three questions, which is the one that you want to answer the most? That is the 80-20. When they start playing music, it means we are way over time. You can hear. They are gently coercing us to get off the stage. So that one question that you know is really going to move the dial. Please, in 2 minutes.
Okay, so I'll try to be as brief as I can. So the EU is lagging behind the US, America, on innovation and new companies. And if you look at America, you see a lot of companies that were started in Silicon Valley in California. They're moving out of California. And the differences between the EU and the US is regulation. The EU is over-regulated. California used to be the haven for innovation. It's become over-regulated. Innovators are moving out. It's the same with South Africa. We don't actually need more regulation, less regulation. And then the last point is, how do we do what Korea and the other countries have done? We must do exactly what South Africa did during apartheid. We created ABSA, we were deliberate. We created NASPERS, we were deliberate. We gave multi-choice 10 years of open time to support them to be competitive. So, How can you say to me that I must build the next Samsung if you're not going to support me? Like Naspers was supported by apartheid. It cannot be done. So we have to be deliberate. We have to choose clear pathways and support those.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Can you please give the panelists a round of applause? No, we can do better than that. We can do better than that. So just as a token of our appreciation, please receive your gifts. And if you don't mind just being here so that we can take a picture and do all of those good things.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we stand over here for the picture? Director is a photographic director. Hey! Wonderful. Thank you very much. Once again, round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to take a quick tea break. So the time now is past. So I know that you're going to fight with me, but I'm going to give you 15 minutes. past we start. I know you're going to fight with me, ne? So please grab your coffee, grab your tea, and please do come inside. So your 15 minutes starts now. Habashwe.
sit down, we conceptualize,
Yeah.
and then I move. Must I leave it or no?
So you work in the office of the VC.
The other one, our co-author, I don't think he's going to give us more. Is it? Yeah, no, I don't think we're going to get more from the author. He's just a motivational speaker.
Is it? The guy that owns the former director of a lot of things, eh?
Oh, what teacher? What teacher?
Yes.
You know, it's fun. I think for this.
But he's done a lot in Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask that we're going to start in 2 minutes. All the people that are outside, can I ask that they come inside? We are going to start in 2 minutes. If the ushers could usher people in, please. Let's have our tea and coffee inside. We are good to start. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask the people that are outside, please, ushers, please assist us so that we can get the program started. Ushers, please assist with getting people back inside. We want to start. Thank you. Let's settle down. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start. So it's my pleasure and my honor to welcome a colleague from CSIR, Dr. Mateta Mukunyama, who is the area manager for transport systems and operations at CSIR. Now, he leads, just a bit about his background, so he leads the transport systems and operations. Guys, I told you, I've got only child syndrome. Where's that roving microphone? Where's that microphone? You see these people that talk too much when I'm talking? Where's that bring me a microphone. I'll give them the microphone to speak. So he holds a degree in civil engineering from the University of Witwatersrand, as well as a master's and PhD in transportation engineering from the University of Pretoria. He previously worked for the city of Johannesburg and as a private civil engineering consultant in the areas of transport planning, transport modeling, traffic engineering, and development engineering. He has published peer-reviewed technical papers as well as book chapters on topics related to transport operations and modeling. He's also consulted on topics of transport planning and operations for all spheres of government in South Africa and also for international clients. His research interests include modeling of the dynamic needs of public transport, customers, and specifications of their needs in public transport, service contracts, and service design. He's a registered professional engineer with the Engineering Council of South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. No, talk, please. Please take your seats. It's unfair on you. We are 7 minutes late because people took their time to get tea. And now we aren't able to give you the warm round of applause that you deserve. So you're not going to get up from your seat up until I'm satisfied. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give him a warm round? No, come on. No, come on. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Doc, over to you.
There's a song by our beloved Hugh Masekela called Stimela. How many know that song? It's a very sad song. It talks about a train or trains that transport workers from as far as Malawi, Zimbabwe, Namibia, all over Southern Africa. And then these workers are transported to Johannesburg to work in the belly of the earth to extract minerals. But while doing so, while coming to Johannesburg, they don't know what is going to be happening to their families back at home. They don't know whether they'll still be able themselves to go back home. So he says in the song, these workers curse the sound of this train. Every time they hear the sound of this train, they curse because it reminds them of the pain that they have to endure to serve this beast called industrial revolution, right? Let us remember that what you call industrial revolution is built on the back, on the lives, on the blood, on the sweat, on the tears of many workers. Many were killed underground, right? Yes, we glorify industrial revolution, but it is responsible for families breaking up, children losing fathers, mothers. It is responsible for the carbon emissions that we see, climate change that we see. So transport systems that we build in the future what will they be doing? Will they be recreating networks of suffering, of transporting workers still to the beast of the belly, to come buried, to suffer, to sweat? Are we still going to be doing that? Is it even wonder why people destroy these, rail lines, this, the infrastructure, the pain that it has brought to the workers, the families? It's like this train service reminds us of the pain, the suffering. So if we're going to be recreating the infrastructure, the networks, the services, it should not be about saving the colonial networks. It should be about trading with each other. But before we can trade with each other, we need to know each other. This instrument here, I don't know how many know it. What is called? It's played mostly in east of the continent as a kayamba. You find it in Tanzania, you find it in Kenya, also Mozambique. There are big kayambas. You go to these gatherings, many, we don't know about this instrument, but it's big in East Africa, right? There's this one, surely you know this one. This one, West Africa, Kashaka. It's also, some people call it Kushkesh. But there's a lot of wealth in the continent. So the more we know each other, the more we get to know about our cultures, where we come from, what makes us us. When we say Sawubona, I see you, in Zulu, Sawubona, I see you. It means I see you, right? So we need to create networks that get us to know each other, transport networks that get us to know each other. And it's through knowing each other that we can begin to trust each other. And it's out of trusting each other that we can start trading properly. I cannot trust you and trade with you easily. In fact, often when I don't trust you, I don't want to trade with you. So the networks that we need to be creating, the transport networks, should be about connecting us so that we know each other, so that we trust each other. And this trust goes deeper. If you look at, we do surveys, we measure what is happening in the network, the travel times and all sorts of, technical things. A truck traveling from Johannesburg to Lusaka, it was measured by the Cross-Border Road Transport Agency that it takes about 166 hours. 80% of that time is spent on stops, police stops, in Johannesburg, Metropolis, and then further up is provincial police, Tshwane Police, Limpopo, municipality of this, and then there's a weighbridge. 76 hours of travel, 80% in this stop, start. So it means that the police in Tshwane don't necessarily trust systems in Johannesburg. They don't trust systems in Gauteng. The ones in Limpopo don't trust SARS, South African Revenue Services, in our borders, doesn't trust what is happening there, upstream. So our transaction costs are higher because we don't trust each other. We have created systems that essentially are built on mistrust. So the, uh, the, the future is about creating that trust. How do we create that trust? How do we create networks that connect us so that we can trade with each other? Can you imagine if you're hiring people in a company and they tell you, this person did this. Like I was introduced here, all the speakers were introduced. You know, this is what they've done, this is what they've, you know, this is who they are. You begin to trust that, probably it's useful information that they're going to be delivering. But an electrician in Malawi, or a teacher in Zimbabwe, or some other professional in Namibia, in Angola, do we know them? Could we create a future that says, a platform that says, this is who we are, this is who these people are, all over. And then we are wanting to connect them to us. I need this service. Who is best positioned to do this for me? And then I create networks that connect these individuals. So the future of our transport networks going into the future across the continent should be about building trust, should be about connecting trust, should be about the flow of trust, because it is cheaper to do business when you trust each other. It is more sustainable that way. If we continue to mistrust each other, only big business, because they're trading amongst themselves, will be benefiting. All this continental free trade area, it will be big business. So the future is transport networks, contracts that are built on trust. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, but you know Mos. No, but no, guys, that's not, that's very weak. Doctor, thank you very much for that. Sometimes we listen to music, and if we don't connect the lyrics, of the music, I mean, when you speak about the sadness of the song, Stimela, and the rail and economics and those kind of things, if you don't connect those dots, sometimes you don't connect those dots. And actually for me, it was actually something that is quite thought-provoking. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask Dr. G, who's going to facilitate a panel discussion which is titled Inter-Regional Mobility, Technology Skills, and the Future of Work. Dr. G, can we? You know what you need to do, Mos. Can we?
Thank you. I thought our MC would do the honors of reading out the bios of our lovely panelists. But can I please invite our panelists to come to the stage and give them the opportunity to grace you with why they deserve to give us all these gems when you talk about interregional mobility. Could I please ask Dr. Matete to come back up? Ms. Maphefu, Ms. Teboho, and Ms. Neo. Thank you so much for joining us. I think since Doctor had a chance to kind of grace us with setting the pace for our discussion, can we just open with a round of introductions? Who you are, who you present, any gems around interregional mobility, just to get us into the discussions.
Good day, everyone. My name is Tebogo Masindi. I'm from DHL Express. We are the logistics company. We operate in 51 countries in sub-Saharan Africa and over 220 globally in territories. We actually, our business, we sell time. We operate in time-definite shipments, so that's what we do. And going back into the question that you asked, what we do, we have seen that the AI and IoT, it's a game changer in the logistics company. And yeah, I'm hoping to share some nuggets in our panel today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mapifo Ano Frimpong. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Transport Education and Training Authority, one of the 21 SETAs. Our focus is in the transport industry. And what we do as an institution is to provide opportunities and access for those that are either looking to enter the transport sector as workers in the different sectors of transport, be it rail, aviation, maritime, and road sector, whether it be in the private sector or even in the public sector. We also provide opportunities for young people under the age of 36 to be given opportunities for entrepreneurship if they have an idea and they want to find ways in which to get support and networks. One of the things that we do as a SETA is to try and be the network between an employer or a business or an industry with young kids. But we only focus on skills development. We don't give any funding for capital for them to invest into it. We also focus on rural areas, and we focus on communities, NGOs, and community-based organizations. And our job is to try and see how we can provide opportunities for training, opportunities for work, opportunities for internship. We obviously work with higher education institutions, we work with TVET colleges, we work with the private sector, we work with the research institutions, but we also work a lot in my sector with locally based business schools and provide an opportunity for new leaders to emerge by exposing them to what we would call a small MBA and let them go overseas and see how globally transport operations are actually managed and how we can take advantage of digitalization. As I close, she's one of the beneficiaries of the Leadership Development Program where we exposed them to Spanish ways of transportation.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for that. Now, Doctor, to put you on the spot, because we had a lovely opening from you.
Yeah.
You talk about trust when it comes to fostering interregional mobility. And I think one of the speakers in the morning made a point about how diverse the continent is, different languages, different currencies, different cultures. How do we practically foster trust with all these differences? And is there a way of leveraging technology to build that trust and kind of get to a point where interregional mobility becomes more standard as we advance Africa's economy?
Yes, we need to work a lot around development of industry standards. Our standards generating body, let's take South Africa, South African Bureau of Standards. What are they doing around talking to, entities in Angola, entities in Democratic Republic of the Congo, and other, countries to say, this is the future. In the next 15 years, this is the technology or systems that we want to be investing in. Can we create industry standards from which we can start training in our institutions, developing skills, and then also developing the technology itself? Can you imagine buying this piece of equipment and you're the only person who has it? The after-sales support will be very poor. No one will want to invest in anything like that. After-sales support for that, it will be very expensive. So we can create that critical mass by making sure that we create, we harmonize, our standards. We talk about it a lot, but we need to, make it a reality. And in terms of embedding it in what we do, it's making sure that how we train, is in relation to those standards. How we procure is in relation to those standards. And then you can talk about local content, localization, because now I know what to build. Now I can trust that what you've built conforms to these standards. Something that you've built in Malawi conforms to these standards. So we need to take that area very seriously, of making sure that our standards, our regional standards, support industry development into the future.
So picking up on that point of streamlining how we do and what we do, the central point that jumps out at me is the people behind that, the skill set, and then how can we capacitate those people through technology. So just to come back, you touched on how the different technologies are being used.
Just to have now was we sent 4 employees to Malaysia to go and see how they can clear shipments before they reach out, because one of the things, and I think even the previous speakers were talking about SMEs, is that they struggle and to find out then the shipments get stuck at the customs. So what we do then, we partner with the SMEs, we partner also empowering our employees to ensure that they know that how to clear the shipments, that when they land, then they can be able to be cleared. And your typical SME that struggles with finance and network, they are able to clear their shipments. So it's a cross-functional training of employees across the globe. So we leverage in our network to ensure that our employees are trained well, but also ensuring that we also partner with institutions to ensure that the young ones then enter the market, because we also don't want to lose the institutionalized knowledge. So we bring both into play. So yeah, and we can't run away that data then drives the decisions that the companies make. And with that being in mind, we see now over the past 5 years, the skills that employees entering our companies is employees that have done data science, machine learning, and we also see that the programs, the language and understanding of those are the employees that are entering our organization. Cyber security is also a big thing that we also see, to ensure that even the shipments that we transfer, they're safe, and also the customers also don't want to be worried about all those things. So those are the skills that we see coming up, and the cross-functional that are happening within the organization. Yeah.
And just leapfrogging from that skills point, as ITETA, is a push towards driving interregional mobility? And if so, are there specific skills program to foster that?
In TITA, what we did when we looked at the African Free Continental Trade Agreement, we took a decision, an intentional decision, to make it one of our priorities. and we started with the SADC region. And the intention there was to a large extent, start with the borders and the point of entries, recognizing that the reason you would find a traffic gridlock on the way to Maputo, on the way to Musina, it is simply because different institutions are looking for different compliance things. You'd find that health is looking at products not leaving the country and entering the country that could provide a problem. But you'd also have customs looking at ensuring that customs do the clearance, but all of them are using paper. So you deal with the police, you deal with port health, you deal with immigration. They are also looking for your paperwork to ensure that not only are you transporting goods, that you are not transporting people in and out of the country. And what that does, it adds to the hours he spoke about, even just in the SADC region, for things to be transported. And when we recognize that, we said, is this a skills problem, or is it a slow adaptation to digital and ICT solutions? And we thought with the border management agency that was recently established, we would like to collaborate with them. And we started with Mozambique, and we said to the Mozambique Department of Transport, what are the ways in which, just from a SADC region, we can influence, if it is slow adaptation of technology, if there are skills program for data scientists, data analysts, and programmers, we could find a way to partner country to country to just alleviate that problem. Unfortunately, government institutions take a while to get things done, and the Mozambican program has not really moved at a pace that we as an institution wanted to do. We then moved over to Angola, and our intention was to say, in what ways can African children in the different African countries be given an opportunity to get into occupations of the future that would be in demand once we adapt to technology. So we then realized it takes a while for us to get done, but what we have done as an institution is to support funding for data scientists and the usage of virtual reality and gaming, but in an educational sense. So one of the programs we have done with different universities is to investigate and invest in learning programs that are based on ICT, learning programs that allow the young that are already digital natives to really work with things that are not necessarily a long qualification, but a short program for skills that will enable them to be ready should we all go digital. So as an institution, we used skills development as a basis to get into the African continent. It is a bit slow, but I do believe if we were to adopt, together with the Border Management Agency, these different institutions working together and just digitizing their compliance, it would be easy to track parcels, to use what already exists, to manage ease of access at the ports, but still make sure that people comply.
There seems to be a tension in all our conversations around what grassroots initiatives we need to come up with to enable all these changes and leveraging technologies, but also the agility that is required from the different role players to make that a reality. But just to park this thought, can we open up to questions from the audience around interregional mobility? We have a question from the lady in the fellow pink behind you, Sissy.
Good afternoon. My name is Maureen Mafolo. Okay, so my question is, I heard you talking about collaboration in between countries. So, and then you said between South Africa and Mozambique, for example, if you don't find what you need, do you move to another country, or do you solve the issues that comes across when you want to collaborate?
Shall we take that question as the audience
Yes.
percolates on what we're talking about?
I think one of the key things that we need to recognize in the African continent is that Africa has a Vision 2063. And the intention of that vision is for Africa to collaborate and integrate its systems. And out of that African vision, different African countries have got different regions. Now, to solve the problem of coordination, you could start with the SADC region. The SADC region is set up precisely for the SADC region to collaborate in the context of the African continent. So what we as an institution have now moved towards is to now look at how we can utilize what already exists in the SADC protocol of agreement between the 16 SADC regions and say, in what ways can we start to collaborate while we are getting the rest of the African continent to get to the same speed? And to that extent, my focus has been on getting the SADC region and ourselves from a skills development point of view to work together in order for us to really collaborate, maybe quicker than we are currently doing.
I'm cognizant of how more agile the private sector tends to be when it comes to collaboration as opposed to government institutions.
They do, actually.
So then, Doc, over to you, Ms. Tebogo. What do you feel is the role of public-private partnerships in fostering interregional mobility, and also those partnerships being of benefit to workers and not just the bottom line of the institutions at play?
I think what we do, or what we're trying to do as an organization, it's those partnerships. I will give one example of the program that we have. It's with Growth to Work, but also even our partnership are typically looking at the SMEs. If we've got two that I can mention. Back to Work, which is typically focusing on women. It's a collaboration also with GIBS and the Berry Clare Foundation, focusing on SMEs for women across sub-Saharan. So with that, we, as DHL, we focus on our core, which is transporting, but ensuring that those individuals that are being trained, they've got mentors, they've got also access to connectivity. So we then leverage on them that transporting their shipments, ensuring that they're exposed to, or they're exposed that their trades or their, I don't want to say shipments, but their products get access or get exposed to the market across the globe. And we've got a program that's called Go Trade, which is also looking at those typically SMEs. So in terms of what we do, we educate from education and also take out in our education, take out the burden of their shipments being stopped by customs. So it's empowering both the SMEs and the employees to say, this is the process, this is what you do. So in terms of efficiencies, the systems, I know of the project that was rolled down in Rwanda, specifically for that over 150 SMEs were trained. We trained also government officials. We also ensured that we contributed, or we sent engineers to go and assess the center in which that village was going to operate in, to ensure that their materials, everyone is sorted. So the outcome was that their shipments clearing process improved from 25% to 50%. And also we realized also that then we assisted them in implementing the customs clearing system. So we, as DHL, we always look for continuous improvement, and that's where also employees are encouraged to then send their ideas. So we have ideas management, where then you incentivize those employees where their ideas were implemented in the business. So that happens across. And at the end, you find out then there is a competition in the SSA region to ensure that the CEO then acknowledges those employees to ensure that then we innovate or we evolve as an organization like
So
that.
a culture of innovation
So
embedded.
it's promoted all the way. Yeah, and listening to the voice of the customer, because there's no use of implementing things and not addressing what the issue is on the ground.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And Doc, from your side, how do you leverage PPP?
Yeah, so there's something very practical that we can start doing in terms of collaboration between public and what you call private sector. The regulations that the public sector often relies on, we can do a lot in terms of modernizing them, make them a lot more performance-based. So you say to the private sector individuals, this is what I want. This is the outcome that I want, and then it's up to you to, innovate to deliver what is required. If I want a company or a business that I can trust, what stops me in my procurement contracts from specifying something like the youth in where you are located, for example? How do they rate you as a business in terms of the impact that you have, on their existing livelihood? Okay, it's an outcome. So you don't have to say, I require you to, do one, do two. You just need to specify the outcome, and then independently, you then, bring that metric into, the evaluation and say, actually, the youth in whatever, this area, are saying your business is actually impacting them like this, so it's working. But there are other ways in which you can bring, the private sector as well, as individuals, as communities. If you look at what Kenya has done, for example, in what you call the public transport industry, it's the communities who collectively invest in those companies that operate. They see the value that these entities are bringing, so they say, we don't want you to suffer. We want you to tap into these savings, and out of the profits that you make, you will then, bring them back to us. So you need to facilitate communities as well to reinvest in the very, businesses that operate in there. So, in a nutshell, how you regulate needs to modernize performance-based contracting so that you incentivize innovation, but extend it also, to communities as well. Give them space to invest in these, transactions, companies, businesses. But then that issue of trust comes in, again. I need to trust that my money is not going to disappear. There's not going to be a VBS thing, in this. So we need to facilitate an environment where, that trust can be reinforced. A regulatory environment that ensures that there's, where there's theft, where there is, all these, negative behaviors, there are consequences to that, so that I can trust that the regulators have, have the best interests of us, the communities, so I need to trust the system, as well. So again, trust is a currency that we need to embed in all the business that we do in mobility transport networks going forward.
I think what jumps out at us from the first annual Future of Work dialogue to now is the notion that even with the advances in technology and industrial revolutions, there's always a human face behind it.
Yeah.
They trust building communities, bringing people in to innovating and giving them ownership of what we're trying to create. Is there any other questions from the audience around this? And then there's another one.
When you're here, you can't see.
Good day, everyone. This is Buntu from Business Partners. My question may be directed to you, Dr. Mokonyama, and also Ms. Anno Frimpong. I'm interested in how has the Namibia-South Africa corridor been effective in terms of the collaboration between the two countries, and also in terms of piggybacking from what has happened in the Namibia and South Africa in the eastern borders. What lessons can we take from that corridor that we can implement going into the eastern borders that could help collaboration further within the SADC and also maybe greater Africa? Thank you.
Thanks for that. Can we take one more question?
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. My name is George. I'm from TUT. I think one of the problems I'm not getting clearly, and towards the end I think we started speaking about that, is the point of disruption. You know, when we are talking about transport systems, for example, we cannot have a truly public transportation system when you have an apartheid structure like the taxis operating. Currently, you cannot get in a coach to go to Swaziland or to go to Lesotho because those routes are owned by the taxi mafia. Where is the policy on public transportation? The last major policy pronouncement was in the early 2000s of the taxi recapitalization, but we're not talking about those things. The other thing that I wanted to speak about was the human element, and the doc was speaking about that when he's talking about trust. But what he's talking about in not very direct terms is corruption. That's what it is. Try to drive into Zimbabwe with your car. It's very easy to drive into Botswana, into Eswatini. Try to drive into Zambia with your car. It's like you are carrying contraband. Those are the things I think we need to be speaking about, and they must be described in unflattering terms of corruption. That's what it is. And we are trying to create solutions, technological solutions, to say, let's remove the human. The human can never be removed. For example, they say, when you're trying to book for your driver's license, book online. Yeah. Go online, you won't find the slots. Go to the traffic department, there's always a room adjacent to that, there are open slots. I think we need to bring the human back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Can we fill those two questions?
I think let me start with the human element question that the last person said about disruption and about how a transport system could also, while being regulated, be free and void of corruption. Coincidentally, the World Economic Forum, when it speaks about skills of the future, it speaks about things that we call soft skills. Talks about negotiation, talks about creativity, problem solving. And your question is about problem solving the problem of an ecosystem that is regarded as corrupt to a point of being over-regulated. You over-regulate because you're trying to solve a human problem. And I think to a large extent, it starts with all of us. It starts with self. It starts with the communities within which we come from. The reason why we're using digital technology in some instances is because the trust management and the trust issue starts from within where we are operating. And maybe a policy might not solve the problem because these are human issues that really originate from a deep place. But I wouldn't wish for us to assume that corruption is an African problem and assume that Africans are so corrupt that they cannot innovate. I do believe maybe we need to find ways in which we can resolve the issues of trying not to regulate too much, but ensuring there's no leakage in any way that you do. And the question he asks about the lack of connections. In fact, there is a move, if you look at other continents. If you come to Europe, you come to North America, they have an extensive rail sector. A rail sector that you can get into one train from one end of Europe and get all the way to another part of Europe. Now, in Africa, the extent to which rail infrastructure is, it is only about moving goods out of the African continent to the ports. It's not about transporting people. And maybe, even if you came with a policy, would that solve the problem that he is speaking about? So I'm not too sure that sitting here we could solve all of the problems that Africa has, but I do believe the African continent as a whole needs to find ways, one, to make public transport easy, accessible, cost-effective, and quicker, so that if I'm moving from South Africa and I'm going to Lesotho, or I'm going to Swaziland, or I'm going to Namibia, I can easily just choose the form of public transport that I'm going to use. If the taxi is the best option, I do so without fear of dying on the road, without fear of thinking I'm going to get involved in an accident. So I make a choice, but that choice makes it easy on my pocket. So rail investment and rail infrastructure might be a long-term, medium-term thing that the African continent can concentrate on, while at the same time finding ways in which we can integrate public transport, be it buses, be it taxis. But do I have the answers for the African continent? I wouldn't even dare to suggest that I have those. But I'm just saying, critical questions you're asking, they require us to solve our problems in the African continent in dialogues and creative solutions that come from dialogues like this.
And then, Doc, your perspective on the human element raised around how do we solve for the not so savory elements of human character.
Yeah, before I get to that, there was a question around the Namibia, corridors and eastern corridors, which I think is critical. Transnet as an entity in South Africa is becoming more and more inward-looking, right? And not so long ago, it was beginning to be outward-looking to say, what can we do beyond the borders of South Africa? What role can we play in Namibia and East Africa and others? So we need leadership that stop becoming so nationalized that you stop thinking about the bigger benefits that you could or value that you could create. Let me say. These state-owned enterprises, like Transnet, they need to play a much bigger role in terms of collaborating with those other entities. The Namibian Namport, for example. How can we collaborate, better to, create efficiencies? And that will require leadership. It's a leadership issue, going forward. This stop-start thing to say we've got these capital projects, and then a new board comes and say, let's cancel this thing, let's investigate all the projects, and then we can only start these projects 10 years later. It's not going to help us. So as we decide on capital projects, let's move and make sure that we implement them, and then stop this nationalistic, kind of tendencies, going forward. We did a survey on the human things. We did a survey on, travels between South Africa and other, neighboring countries. Why do you travel? How often do you travel? All those questions. And out of that, out of those, I think we interviewed 18,000, people. And out of that, what we found is that South Africa still, the travels, on road, is still colonial. I go to visit, I come from somewhere to visit a family that is here, and then I go back home. Those who are doing business, it was about 3% or so, very low, very little. And those who are, in fact, tourism was also very little, although they're saying visit, it was just visiting family, not so much visiting a country. So we need to take cultural exchanges a lot more seriously. It was said earlier, this issue of getting our students to have a stake in Angola, have a stake in DRC. You cannot just have a stake in Pretoria as a TUT student or as a University of Pretoria. You have to have a stake elsewhere. See your future beyond, just the town of Pretoria or Polokwane or so forth. Have a stake. So these cultural exchanges will help us to get to know each other, understand opportunities that exist, elsewhere. And then bringing in the issues of technology, on board. I need to know who is a student